Mr. Linden's library. Once upon a time, Lily, a 12-year-old girl, was packing her stuff because she was going to spend the whole winter in her grandfather's house, Mr. Linden's house. Lily is a curious girl who enjoys staying in her room, reading novels and fairy tales. She was short and thin. She's got long brown hair and pale skin with pink cheeks. Mr. Linden was a 60-year-old man, tall and thin, with white curly hair. He always wears a monocle and vintage suits. He also has a white beard on his face. His house was a huge and ancient house. It had large windows where the light came through and the stars shone at night. It was an inheritance of the Linden family, and its age is around 200 years. Later that day, Lily's parents brought her to Mr. Linden's house. By the time she got there, he was waiting at the porch with a big smile. Lily got out of the car and ran into Mr. Linden's arms and hugged him. "Hello, Grandad, I miss you so much," said Lily, almost crying while she was still hugging him. He told her to stop crying because he had a surprise for her. As he said that, she looked at him with a smile. He made cupcakes with purple frosting because he knew she loved them. Later, Lily's parents left and Mr. Linden took a nap as always. She was all alone in that big house with long red carpets, ancient pictures on the walls, and a lot of rooms she'd never seen before. She'd been hanging around for ages, but suddenly ended up in a little hallway with a door at the end. She was staring at the door, wondering if it would be a good idea to enter that room and see what it was. After at least 3 minutes, she decided to enter. When she looked at the room, she froze because of happiness. It was a large library. It was so big that there were long stairs at the sides to reach the highest books. She was appreciating the whole room and then started to look over the names of the nearest books. Some books were in a strange language she couldn't understand, but she found that more interesting. Then she realized that there was a light coming from the side of the library. She followed that light and found a glass cabinet with a book on it. The book was blue with silver drawings and a name, The History of Magic. When she read that title, she thought it was a fairy tale about wizards and fairies, so she took the book without thinking it twice. Suddenly, the door opened and Mr. Linden looked hungry and concerned. It was a strange mix. "You're not supposed to be here, Lily. This is my place where children are not allowed to be in," shouted his granddad, but now quite upset. "I'm sorry, you know how much I like to read and I couldn't resist," said Lily with a sad tone. Mr. Linden didn't know Lily hid that book under her t-shirt and brought it to her room. She put it on the desk and left to do gardening outside with her granddad, who loves it. After a long day, Mr. Linden gave Lily a goodnight kiss, but when he turned around and saw the book on the desk, almost passed out. "Lily, I'll tell you this only once. Do not read that book," said a little scared, or that could tell Lily. "Why?" I thought. He cut her off by saying, "No, you don't understand how dangerous this book is." He took the book and left, leaving the book in the kitchen where he thought Lily couldn't find it. He was wrong. She spent almost every night thinking about the book and what was so dangerous about it. Then she stood up and went to get it. After an hour and a half, she found it and went to her room again. She lay down on her bed and started to read, some things in a language she couldn't understand. Suddenly, she started to fall asleep. The next morning, Mr. Linden went to Lily's room to wake her up, to take breakfast, but he couldn't open the door. He pushed the door and saw a lot of ink all over the room. "Oh no," he said. He had warned her about the book. Now it was too late. She was cursed because of the pages she'd read, and only a real wizard could save her. The end. Or not.